in this video, I'm going to talk you through the solutions to the October-November Maths GCSE with CIE, the core version. So in question 1, they gave you a quadrilateral, so a four-sided shape, and you have to work out the value of x, so how many degrees are in this angle here. Hopefully you remember that in any four-sided shape, any quadrilateral, all of these angles add up to 360 degrees. So if you subtract each of those three angles given in the question from the total 360, that should give you the final angle here, x, which is 101 degrees. Okay, so that's the answer to number 1. In number 2, a watch costs $80 and they give us the exchange rate here. $1 is equal to 124.3 Japanese yen. Work out the cost of the watch in yen. So we're changing dollars into yen. So if I look here at the exchange rate, I'm going this way, dollars into yen. So to turn dollars into yen, I have to multiply by 124.3. 1 multiplied by that number gives me the same number. So I have to do the same with this number here. I have to multiply those $80 by 124.3. And if I do that, when I multiply them, I get 9,944 yen. Okay, so that's the answer to number 2. In number 3, you could just put that in the calculator because you're allowed to use a calculator in the exam and that would give you the answer. Or if you wanted to do it in your head, the rules of indices tell you that if these numbers are the same and you're multiplying, you are allowed to add the powers together. So minus 4 plus 5 is 1 and 2 to the power of 1 is just 2. So that was the answer to number 3. Okay, so in question number 4, Amber's mean mark on 5 tests is 80 and her marks on 4 of the tests are 68, 81, 74 and 89. We have to work out her mark on the 5th test. So to work out the mean, you have to add together all the values and divide by however many there are. So if we add together all the values, so all her test scores, 68, 81, 74 and 89, we don't know what her test score is in the 5th one. That's the one we're trying to work out, remember? So let's call that final test score x, okay? So I'm just going to add that on the end. So we're adding together all 5 test scores. And so we have to divide by 5 because there are 5 test scores. Remember, you have to divide by the number of values that there are. Now that is how you calculate the mean. And they tell us the mean at the beginning of the question here is 80. So that calculation equals 80. So all we have to do now is try and solve this equation to find out the value of x. So I'm going to start by just simplifying the numerator here and adding together all of those values. So if I add those together, I get 312. Not forgetting we've still got the plus x at the end. And we're still divided by 5 and we're still equal to 80. Now, to solve that equation, we need to undo everything around x. And I'm going to start by getting rid of that number 5. So the opposite of dividing by 5 is to multiply. Remember, you have to do the same thing to both sides of the equation to keep it balanced. On the left-hand side, they just cancel each other out and we're left with 312 plus x. And on the right-hand side, 80 multiplied by 5 is 400. Now, you might have spotted what the value of x is already. If you're not sure, you just need to subtract 312 on both sides, and that leaves us with 88. So that is the test score that she got on the 5th test. Okay, on to number 5. A little bit of rounding. Okay, the first one, we have to round this number to 1 decimal place. That just means we want to have 1 number after the decimal point. So if we want 1 number after the decimal point, we have to check the second number to see if it rounds that first number up or not. Now, it only rounds that number up if this number is 5 or bigger than 5. And because 6 is bigger than 5, it rounds that number 7 up 1. So that leaves us with 18.8. Okay, Now, on to part B. So this time it says round to 2 significant figures. So you want 2 real numbers. So I'm going to start counting from the beginning, 1, 2. So this time I have to check the third figure to see if it rounds that second one up or not. And 7 is bigger than 5, so it rounds this one up 1, so I'm left with 19. In question number 6, they just want to test that you know how to use your calculator. Okay, remember you're allowed the calculator in the exam, so it's just a matter of putting this calculation into your calculator carefully, making sure you're square rooting everything, and when you put that in the calculator, you should hopefully get 1.5. Okay, number 7, factorize. That means putting into brackets. So we have to take out the highest common factor in all of these terms here. So the highest common factor in 12, 15 and 9 is the number 3. It's the biggest number that fits exactly into each of them. There's also a common letter in all 3 of these terms, the letter X. Okay, see it occurs all the way through. Now that we've taken out everything that's common, we can open up the brackets. Now remember, brackets mean multiply. So you have to work out what goes inside here in saying, what do you multiply 3x by in order to get back to here? So 3x multiplied by 4x gives us 12x squared. 3x multiplied by 5y gives me 15xy. And lastly, 3x multiplied by negative 3 gives me negative 9x. So there I've factorised. Now, number 8. The time t seconds that Jade takes to run a race is 14.3 seconds, correct to 1 decimal place. Complete this statement about the value of t. So they want us to work out the upper bound and the lower bound. So she didn't necessarily run exactly spot on 14.3 seconds. She might have run a little bit slower or a little bit faster, and they've just rounded to 1 decimal place to make it a bit simpler. So to work out the upper and lower bounds, you have to take this value here. So 1 decimal place is like saying 0.1. You have to divide that value there by 2. You always have to divide by 2 in order to work out the upper and lower bounds. Now, when I divide that by 2, I get 0.05. Now, to work out the upper bound, I have to plus that value 0.05 to 14.3, which gives me 14.35. And to work out the lower bound, I have to subtract that value. So 14.3 minus 0.05, which gives me 14.25. So that means that she could have run anything between 14.25 seconds all the way up to 14.35, but not including that value, okay? That's just the upper bound. In question 9, we have to calculate the area of a circle with diameter 9 centimetres. So remember, the diameter is the distance all the way across the circle, looking like that, okay? And the area of a circle is calculated by multiplying pi by the radius squared, okay? Pi r squared. The radius is just the distance halfway across the circle, so this distance here. So to work out the radius of this circle, we must divide the number 9 by 2 to find 4.5. So that is r, the radius. Now we can work out the area. So we have to multiply pi by the radius, so 4.5 squared. Okay, so now you can put that in the calculator. When you put that in, you should get 63.617. And remember, you must round to 3 significant figures in the GCSE. So 1, 2, 3, check that 4th figure. It's the number 1, so it doesn't round the number 6. So we're just left with 63.6 centimetres squared. Okay, now number 10. For part A, we have to write down the coordinates of A. Remember, when you write down coordinates, you always put the x value before the y. So here's point A here, and the x value is -2. And the y value, if we look here on the y-axis, it's positive 3. Now, for part B, complete the rhombus A, B, C, D. So they want you to draw a rhombus on the grid. So a rhombus, it's a quadrilateral, a four-sided shape with parallel sides, and all of the sides are equal in length. So it will look something like that. It's a bit like a parallelogram, but all of the sides are equal. Okay, so we need to work out where point D is. We've got A, B, C, so point D is going to be around here somewhere, but we have to do it accurately to get the full marks. So because these lines need to be parallel, I need to examine the gradient a little bit more carefully. If I look how I travel from B to C, I'm going along 4 units and down 1. So I need to do the same thing from up here. I need to count along 4 units and down 1, which takes me here. Okay, so I'm at coordinates 2, 2. So that is point D. Just don't forget to join all the points up so that you draw the rhombus, and there's the answer. Okay, so in 11A, we have to write the fraction 30 over 54 in its lowest terms. So you might just be able to do this one in your head. The common factor in 30 and 54 is 6. So if I divide 30 by 6, I get 5. And if I divide 54 by 6, I get 9. Equally, you could just put that fraction in the calculator, and the calculator should be able to simplify it for you. Okay, you'll get exactly the same thing. In part B, we have to complete the table. So we need to first put this fraction as a decimal. So if you type that fraction into your calculator and then you press the SD button, it's the SD button on my calculator, but it might be different on yours, so you need to learn your calculator buttons. This will be turned into a decimal for you. Okay, so you just literally type it into the calculator, press SD, and it will give you the answer in its decimal form. Now, to turn the decimal into a percentage, you have to times that answer by 100. So if you times that number by 100, you get 9.